4 months after my younger brother crashed my car into a guardrail and totaled it, my father showed up at my apartment door, holding a manila envelope and wearing the look he usually reserved for funerals. Not the envelope itself that told me something was wrong. It was that he had driven 40 minutes from Riverside without calling first. My father was a man who scheduled dentist appointments 2 months in advance. He did not do spontaneous. I had just gotten home from my shift. I work commercial HVAC. Early starts, long days, and the kind of tired that sits in your shoulders and doesn't leave until you've eaten something real and sat down for 20 minutes without anyone needing something from you. I was still in my work boots. I had a protein bar in my jacket pocket that I had not gotten around to eating since 11 a.m. My apartment smelled like the leftover chili I'd made on Sunday, and I was genuinely looking forward to it. Then I opened the door and saw the envelope. "Hey, Dad." He looked at me for a second, like he was measuring something. "Can I come in?" I stepped back. He walked in slowly, which was also wrong. My father walked fast everywhere. My mother used to joke that he treated every room like a parking lot he needed to cross. He sat down at my kitchen table. I stayed near the counter. "What's in the envelope?" I asked. He set it down but didn't open it. "It's about the car." "The car. Right. My name is Marcus." "Wait, no, I should back up. 4 months ago my brother Perry borrowed my truck." I want to be precise about that word. "Borrowed, as in?" he asked. "As in," I said. "Yes. As in." I handed him the keys because he said his Civic had a flat, and he needed to get to a job interview in Pomona, and didn't want to ask our parents because they were already on him about finding steady work. I said yes, because that is what I do. I have a reliable truck. Perry has situations. These two facts have overlapped more times than I can count. He never made it to the interview. He made it about 14 miles down the 60 freeway before he hit a guardrail trying to merge while looking at his phone. No other cars involved. No one hurt. Just my truck, a guardrail, and Perry's explanation, which changed 3 times depending on who he was talking to. To me, he said the sun was in his eyes. To my mother, he said a car cut him off. To my father, he said the truck handled differently than he expected. The truck was a 2019 Ford F-150 I had paid off the previous spring. It had taken me 4 years. My insurance covered some of the damage, not all of it. The gap, what my insurance didn't cover. Because Perry was an unlisted driver operating the vehicle without permission. Technically, even though I'd handed him the keys like an idiot, came out to just under $6,000. Perry did not have $6,000. Perry did not have a savings account. Perry was 31 years old and had not held a job for longer than 8 months in the last 5 years. And now my father was sitting at my kitchen table with a manila envelope. "What's in it?" I asked again. He folded his hands on top of it. "Your brother found a way to settle the gap. The repair bill." I waited. "He got a personal loan," my father said. "But the bank approved it under conditions. They want a cosigner." The room didn't physically change. It was the same kitchen, same overhead light with a bulb that flickered sometimes, same chilly smell, but something in the air shifted. I recognized it the way you recognize the pressure before rain. "Why is that envelope in your hand?" I said. My father looked at the table. "Because he asked me to bring it to you." "He asked you?" I said it flat. Not a question. He's embarrassed, Owen. He didn't want to ask you directly. I almost laughed. He destroyed my property, left me with a financial hole, and now he was too embarrassed to ask me himself. So he sent our 64-year-old father to do it for him, with a manila envelope like a bill collector, who genuinely cares about you. "No," I said. My father looked up. "I haven't explained. Dad. He wrecked my truck. I've been driving a rental for 4 months, that I'm paying for out of pocket. He's never once offered to cover even part of it. And now he wants me to co-sign a loan so he can fix what he broke and call it even." My father pressed his lips together. "He's trying." Owen. Trying was another word my family had a complicated relationship with. Trying meant motion without progress. Trying meant you couldn't be angry because technically effort had been made. Trying was the participation trophy of accountability. "Where is he?" I asked. He thought it would be better if he wasn't here." I pulled out the chair across from my father and sat down. "Okay. Talk." My father explained the loan. $5,800. 24 months. Perry's income. He had picked up warehouse work recently which, sure, was not enough to qualify a loan. With a cosigner, the rate dropped significantly. My credit score, which I had spent years keeping above 780 because I planned to buy a house in the next 2 years, would make me an ideal cosigner. Perry would make the payments. My father said this with the confidence of a man who had never watched Perry follow through on something that required sustained attention. "If he misses a payment," I said, "it hits my credit. He won't miss payments if he loses the warehouse job." "He's not going to lose it, Dad." "Owen." He leaned forward. "I know your brother has made mistakes. I know this whole situation was his fault. But he's trying to make it right and he needs your help to do it." There it was. He needs your help. That sentence had followed me my entire life like a stray dog I'd made the mistake of feeding once. I was the older one. I was the one who got the grades, kept the jobs, paid the bills, showed up on time. Perry was the one with the charm and the chaos and the excuses that somehow still worked on people who loved him. Our whole lives. Whenever Perry's chaos made landfall, the cleanup somehow involved me being stable enough to absorb it. I told my father I needed to think about it. He left the envelope on the table when he went, which told me everything about whose idea that had really been. I called my uncle the next morning. My mother's brother, a man named Wick, who had the rare gift of being honest without performing it. He was a contractor up in Fresno, early 60s, and he answered on the second ring like he always did. "Your dad called me last night," he said before I could say anything. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. He wanted to know what I thought. "What did you say?" Wick was quiet for a second. I told him what Perry needs is a cosigner the way a house fire needs more kindling. I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah, you're not thinking about it, are you?" "I don't know yet." Wick made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "Oh, when? He crashed your truck. Has he paid a single dollar of the rental?" "No." "Has he apologized without immediately following it with an excuse?" I thought about it. He said he was sorry and that the sun was in his eyes. So no. Listen," Wick said. "Your parents are good people, but they've been covering for that boy so long, they've forgotten it's covering. They think it's just love." I sat with that for a minute. "What does the envelope have to do with anything?" I asked. "Why didn't he just text me?" "Because a text you can ignore in 10 cents, Wick said. "An envelope your father drives 40 minutes to deliver, you feel." That was exactly it. Perry hadn't sent the paperwork, he'd sent a performance. 3 days later, my mother called. She didn't mention the loan right away. She asked about my work, my apartment, whether I was eating enough, whether I'd had my heating checked because she'd heard winters were going to be bad this year. It was a very loving, very thorough warm-up. Then she said, "Your father told me he talked to you." "He did. Perry is really trying, sweetheart." "Mom. He got the job, he's been there 6 weeks. That's good, he just needs a little support, one cosign. You wouldn't even feel it if he makes the payments. And if he doesn't, he will." "Mom. Has Perry ever followed through on a financial commitment?" Silence. "The loan he got from you and Dad 2 years ago," I said. "Did he pay that back?" More silence. "The cell phone plan you added him to. Did he pay his portion every month?" "Owen, that's different." "How?" She sighed. "Because this time he has something to lose." "What does he have to lose?" "Your trust." I sat with that one for a second. Perry had my trust. Past tense. He lost it on the 60 freeway on a Tuesday in March, and apparently the solution to losing my trust was to ask me to hand him something even more valuable. I said I'd think about it. She said she knew I would because I was always the responsible one. She said it like a compliment. I had learned recently that it was not always a compliment. I did not co-sign the loan. I sent Perry a text that afternoon. Simple, "I'm not co-signing. I'm not doing this because I'm angry, though I am. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because co-signing your loan puts my credit at risk to fix a problem that was entirely your fault, and I am not willing to carry that risk for you. If you want to talk, call me. If you want me to help you find other options, I'll do that. But I'm not signing." He didn't respond for 2 days. When he did, it was 4 words. "Cool. Thanks for nothing." I put my phone down and stared at my wall for a while. That was when my parents went quiet. Not angry quiet. The other kind. The kind where they still answered when I called. But the warmth was slightly turned down, like a thermostat moved 2 degrees. My mother started ending calls faster. My father stopped texting me the sports scores he used to send without explanation. It was subtle. It was effective. It was meant to be felt. Wick called me a week later. "Your mom called me," he said. "I know. She's worried you're becoming cold," I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because cold was what they called it when you stopped giving things that cost you something. "I turned down a cosign on a loan for the truck he wrecked," I said. "I didn't disown anyone. I know that, you know that." "Does my mother know that?" Wick exhaled. "Your mother knows it. She just also believes that if you cosign, Perry will come through. The money situation will resolve itself, and everyone can go back to being a family that doesn't have a problem." She's not wrong that she wants that. She's wrong about how to get there. I thought about that for a long time after I hung up. The thing about being the reliable one is that people mistake your reliability for elasticity. Like, because you've never broken, you can't. Like, because you've absorbed every hit so far, there's no limit to the hits you can absorb. And when you finally say no, they don't process it as self-protection. They process it as failure. Like you've stopped doing your job. My job was never being Perry's buffer. I just played it for so long that everyone forgot to look at the job description. 3 weeks after my text, Perry called. I almost didn't pick up. "Hey," he said. "Hey." Silence for a second. Then, "I got a different loan. Higher rate, but I got it." "Okay," I said. "I wanted you to know I'm handling it." "Good." Another silence. I waited. Perry had never been good with silence. He always filled it, usually with something that made things worse. "I just don't understand why you couldn't have helped me," he said. It would have cost you nothing if I made the payments, and everything if you didn't. I would have made them. Perry, I believe you believe that. What does that mean? It means I don't think you're lying. I think you mean it every time you say you'll follow through. I just also have data. He was quiet for a second. Then, that's harsh. You crashed my truck. I paid 4 months of rental costs. You sent Dad with an envelope instead of asking me yourself. I don't think I'm the one being harsh here. I said I was sorry. You said the sun was in your eyes. He didn't have an answer for that. I heard him breathing on the other end of the line, and I thought about all the versions of this conversation we'd had across our whole lives. Different amounts. Different problems, same architecture. Perry in the middle of something he created. Me being asked to step into it. I'm not trying to punish you, I said. I want you to handle your stuff. That's genuinely what I want. You have a funny way of showing it. I know. I kept my voice level. Showing it by co-signing a loan for you was not something I could do. He hung up. Not slammed, just disconnected. I sat in my apartment for a while after that. The chili was long gone. I had a better routine now. Actual cooking, groceries on Sundays, a standing appointment with a friend from work to play basketball on Thursday evenings. My apartment was clean. My truck was fixed. My credit score was where I needed it. My family was in a weird place, but my life was mine. That felt like something's. My mother organized a dinner 6 weeks later. She did this sometimes, not holidays, just dinners. The ones where she made too much food and said it was for everyone and meant it, as a reset. A way to diffuse something without discussing it. I went. I'm not sure why, except that Wick told me if I skipped it I'd give my mother something new to be worried about, and I did not want to hand her another thing to work with. Perry was there. He sat at the end of the table and was careful to be pleasant. He talked about the warehouse job. He talked about a certification program he'd been looking into. He was charming and low-key and made everyone laugh, twice. Perry was good at rooms. He'd always been good at rooms. My father grilled, which meant he was trying. My mother made her potato casserole and her green beans with the almonds. The house smelled like Sunday afternoons from 20 years ago. There is no defense against that smell. After dinner, my mother disappeared into the kitchen and my father followed her. Perry and I were alone in the living room for the first time in weeks. He looked at the TV which wasn't on. I looked at the wall. I paid the first payment, he said. Good. On time. Good, Perry. He nodded slowly. I just wanted you to know. I looked at him then. He was my brother. He had the same jaw as our father and the same way of tilting his head when he was thinking. He was not a bad person. He was a person who had never been forced to develop the instincts that made you reliable. Because anytime the gap appeared someone filled it. Usually me. I know you're not trying to be a bad guy, I said. He looked at me. Thanks, I think. But I need you to understand something. I kept my voice low because our mother had ears that defied physics. When you crashed the truck and sent Dad with that envelope. That wasn't just about the money. That was you saying, once again, that what you did to me was something I should absorb. And my job is to be stable enough that I do. Perry opened his mouth. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad, I said. I'm saying it because I don't think you've ever heard it said plainly. He looked at the floor. That's not how I think of it. I know. That's the problem. My mother came back into the room then, holding a piece of pie on a plate like a peace offering. She handed it to me with a smile that meant she'd been listening, and had chosen pie as her response. I took the pie. It was good pie. Nothing was resolved that night. Nothing dramatic happened. Perry didn't break down and take responsibility in a big TV movie way. My parents didn't suddenly seize the pattern clearly. But my father, when he walked me to the door at the end of the night, stopped with his hand on the frame and said, "You're doing the right thing, protecting yourself." It was one sentence. For my father that was practically a keynote address. Thanks, Dad. He nodded once and went back inside. The thing nobody tells you about setting limits with family is that it never gets comfortable. People want a story. Where there's a confrontation. And then a resolution. And then everyone goes home and it's better. That's not usually how it goes. Usually it's slower, quieter, more like weather than an event. Things shift, and then they shift back a little, and then a little further, and at some point you look up and realize the geography of the relationship has changed even though there was never a moment where anyone drew a new map. Perry made his second payment. His third. Wick texted me after the third one. Good for him. I texted back, don't jinx it. He sent back a laughing emoji. That felt like a win. My mother stopped the quiet cooling. She called me one Tuesday evening and talked for 40 minutes about her garden and a neighbor dispute and a documentary she'd seen about deep-sea fish and my father's new thing about making his own bread, and I did not feel any thermostat drop at all. It was just her. My mother who loved me and who sometimes confused love with fixing things and was working on the difference, whether she'd admit that or not. Perry and I talked about once a month. Not long calls. Not deep ones. Something was different in them though. A quality he'd never had before in our phone calls, which was that he was reporting things that had actually happened, rather than things he was about to definitely do. He got the certification. Entry-level HVAC. Which yeah, I may have mentioned to him once or twice that the money was good and steady, and that our company was always looking. I don't know if that was part of it, maybe. He texted me the night he passed the test. One line, passed. Thanks for not bailing me out, I guess. I sat on my couch with that message for a long time. I don't know what I expected when I said no. I don't think I expected it to look like this. Slower, messier, more ambiguous. I didn't get a moment where my brother stood in front of me and said you were right and I was wrong. And you were the most responsible older sibling a guy could ask for. Life tends not to provide those. You get the smaller version. A text at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, a loan being paid on time. A father saying one sentence at a door. I also don't want to wrap this up neater than it is. Perry still has patterns I worry about. My mother still moves toward peace, the way a river moves toward sea, inevitable, persistent, and not particularly interested in what's in the way. My father still drives 40 minutes without calling. But some things are different. Mainly, I am different. I know what it costs me when I say yes because it's easier than saying no. I know what it cost me when I absorbed something that wasn't mine to carry. I spent a long time thinking that being the reliable one meant being available for everything. It took my brother crashing my truck and my father arriving with an envelope for me to understand that reliability isn't the same as sacrifice. I can be steady without being a surface everyone lands on. I can love my family without co-signing their chaos. And if that makes me the one who said no when everyone expected yes, I'll take it. I slept fine. I still sleep fine. My truck is fixed. My credit is clean. Perry is certified. And some Tuesday night, when I am eating up dinner and my phone buzzes with something from my brother that doesn't ask me for anything. Just a dumb video, or a question about what wrench size to use. I feel something that's close to ordinary. Ordinary is underrated. After years of being stable for everyone else, ordinary that belongs to you is one of the best things there is.